Hey, vinyl community, Jeff back again, and I wanted to jump on this contest. This is a contest entry for Edward over at ProgHat's. He's got a 1960s contest, pushing to 400 subscribers, which I believe, I noticed when I was looking at the guidelines, that I think he's already passed that, so that's good. But anyway, so he's doing a contest. You could jump on board. The link will be below, and it's all based on the 1960s, which I admit I have limited choices from, because I'm definitely more of a 70s and 80s guy, but I do have some stuff from the 60s. I'm limiting myself to the albums that I own, so I have as far as my choices and things that I actually own on vinyl. I didn't go digging into CDs. So anyway, it is what it is for what I have at this time. So real simple, 3 questions with the bonus. First question is to show 3 of our favorite albums from, or I don't know, show or talk about 3 of our favorite albums from the 60s. And again, I grabbed from my limited selection, and I got the Arthur Brown album. This is something I recently got into. Didn't know a whole lot. I mean, I knew some of the stuff on here, but basically the singer in the band that I play with, he's more of a big 60s person, and he buys records too. And he accidentally ordered 2 copies of this, and so I took one off his hands. I bought it from him, and I really dig it. Really cool. Really been getting a little more into the 60s psych type stuff and the weirdness. And you know, this is one of the ones that I recently got. So there's one of my 3 albums. The other would be the Monkees. Now, I was born in the 60s, so by the time the 70s rolled around, I was very familiar with the Monkees. We watched them, the reruns of all those classic shows from the 60s, the Monkees, Gilligan's Island, all that stuff. I Dream of Jeannie. And so they became a staple in my mind. Even before I really got into music, I knew the songs of the Monkees. They were just popular, and they were on the TV show. So yeah, I will pull this in as one of my favorites from the 60s. And then I got the Cowsills, another album that I only recently got into. And of course, I mentioned when I got these, the Partridge Family TV show is based on the Cowsill family. There's a documentary that I think I saw on Amazon Prime about the Cowsills and all of that and what they went through. And it was a very intriguing documentary, had a lot of their music. So when I ran across some of their stuff, I grabbed them. And, you know, very reminiscent of that Partridge Family sound, mixed with a little, you know, they're just that 60s sound, you know, all over. And since I'm a big fan of the Partridge Family, I end up digging the Cowsills. So I have a couple of their albums, so I'm going to throw them in. Then he wanted to hear 3 of our favorite singles from the time. I don't buy singles, so I went and looked at some of the favorite songs that I remember. These are from my childhood that I remember that would have been from the 60s. Led Zeppelin's Good Times, Bad Times. That was probably most everybody's first discovery of Led Zeppelin, you know, from the opening track of the first album. Great stuff. And so that I really got into the Zeppelin a little more on the second album. Used to play that to death, but you know, the first album and those early singles still very much favorite songs there. The Beatles with Michelle. Now that really stuck out to me as a kid because I went to school with a girl named Michelle. She was very cute. Used to really like her, and we used to always kind of sing that in jest around her. Michelle, you know. I didn't know anything about it when I sang it as far as who it was by or anything. It was just a song that we heard on the radio that really stuck with us, and I really enjoyed it. Same with the Monkees, Daydream Believer. Again, you see it on the TV show, you'd hear it on the radio, a lot of the stuff from that time frame. And those all just kind of get ingrained in your mind, and so they still to this day become favorite songs. So Led Zeppelin's Good Times, Bad Times, Beatles, Michelle, and Monkees with Daydream Believer would be my 3 favorite tracks from the 60s. And then the last one is to show your favorite band from the 60s. Now again, I would have to say I know a lot about music from the 60s. I have a handful of stuff that I've bought so far on vinyl from the 60s. But as many people would probably go with, probably the one band that is the most prominent in my mind from the 60s would be the Beatles. So I'm going to say at this time with the stuff that I own, the Beatles would be my favorite band from the 60s. So there you go. And then the bonus question is to show your favorite album from 1968, because that's when Edward was born. He's having a contest. He was born in 68, so we want to see that. And Shades of Deep Purple. Now, as far as favorite bands from the 60s, you know, I was kind of inclined, instead of going with the Beatles, to go with like Deep Purple or Led Zeppelin, but they came in real close to the tail end. I mean, this is, 68. So they hadn't really established themselves. And really they, at least the Deep Purple changed in the early 70s is when they really made it big. So I always think of Deep Purple as a 70s band, but of the 68 year, this would be one of my favorite albums because it's a start. You got Hush on here, which you still hear on the radio today. Different singer, different feel a little bit, and then they went on to greatness in the 70s. And the same with Zeppelin. I mean, yeah, they started in the late 60s, but they became huge in the 70s. So I always looked at them as more 70s bands and didn't want to drag them into the 60s. But that's it. Hopefully that qualifies for everything, Edward. And you all jump on board this contest, and let's get him up to 500 real quick. I will see you later. Rock on and rock hard.